Do you want to know how to teach a child critical thinking skills? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting, good communication, problem solving, how to build strong family bonds all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we are talking about critical thinking skills. Many parents want their children to learn good critical thinking skills because we want our children to solve their own problems, right? Well, it is possible. In this video, we're going to talk about what makes good critical thinking and some different skills that you can utilize to help your child learn critical thinking too. So what makes good critical thinking? A person needs to understand cause and effect to be good at critical thinking. They also need to be self-directing within their thoughts. They need to be able to ask questions so that they can discern things that they are seeing around them, or even things that they might be feeling or telling themselves on the inside. When a person is good at critical thinking, they are pausing, asking questions, clarifying. They aren't jumping to conclusions yet. They don't take a conclusion and then try to fit everything into it. They open the mind, open the conversation, sort things out, and then come to a decision. And if they find that their decision was not the best decision, they come back to the critical thinking table. They go through the process again, maybe bringing in new information so that they can come to another conclusion. Critical thinking takes time. And I think there are a lot of people that don't like to be bothered with that much time, so they don't put in the time to do the thinking. But there are also some people who aren't trained in critical thinking because maybe all of the people around them are more emotionally reactive, or they do emotional reasoning. They make decisions with emotions instead of taking the time to use that prefrontal cortex. So let's talk about the brain. Let's talk about the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex of the brain, the part that does all of the logical processing for the person, is not fully developed until a person is usually between the ages of like 18 and 25 years old. So it's like the mid-20s that this part of the brain fully develops for the person. That doesn't mean that they can't think until then. It just means that up until that point, they are still developing their ability to properly problem solve and do that critical thinking to the best of their ability. That means that all through adolescence, sometimes even into young adulthood, the person is learning how to do those critical thinking skills. And let's be honest, sometimes we even learn how to do good critical thinking way later because we didn't learn it before. So it is okay to learn critical thinking skills even after your brain is fully developed, because you can always form new synapses in the brain. But when children are little, they need a lot of help learning how to do their critical thinking because they are emotional. And by nature, they are oftentimes a lot more anxious as well. Children have a harder time dealing with their anxiety, and they have to be coached through it, incident by incident, before they start hooking together all the pieces and can say, wait a minute, that one incident when I didn't want to eat my food was really the same experience as when I didn't want to go to bed or I didn't want to get off of the TV. I just didn't want change. I didn't want something new. They can't hook all of that together until they're quite a bit older, so we train them moment by moment by moment. But training is important. If we want our children to become really proficient at critical thinking, we need to be having lots of discussion with them all the time. Now, if you've subscribed to Teaching Self-Government channel already, you'll know that I'm all about having deliberate, assertive discussion as families. This leads to more freedom, more connection, and more self-government. What is self-government? Self-government is being able to determine the cause and effect of any given situation and possessing a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them. So that means that a person is able to analyze what's going on around them, what's going on on inside of them and make plans for how they want to direct themselves forward. The prefrontal cortex of the brain takes care of all of the logical reasoning, the problem solving, and the planning for the brain. So when a person is engaged in learning how to govern themselves and plan for future success, they actually are doing that good critical thinking front brain work. In the Teaching Self-Government Parenting course, there are these 4 children's books that you can use to teach children, probably ages 12 and under, what we call the 4 basic skills of self-government. These 4 basic skills of self-government are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. Each one of these 4 basic skills has a skill set attached to it. For instance, this book here, London LaRae Says Okay, teaches the skill following instructions. There are 5 steps to following instructions. They are to look at the person or the situation, keep a calm face, voice, and body, say okay or ask to disagree appropriately, do the task immediately, and then check back. When a person learns all 5 of those steps, and they learn all the steps to these 4 basic skills, that takes care of 99% of their behavioral problems. But not just that. When a person learns each step for the skill that they are learning, it actually helps them learn more critical thinking skills. They start isolating, what piece was I missing? What pieces did I do right? How can I do that one piece better while still doing these other pieces good like I did them before? A person, for instance, might, when you give them instruction, not look at you, but they might keep a calm face, voice, and body, and they might say, okay, and go off to do something. They might even come back and say, I did it, but they never look at you. Looking at the person is the very first step of following instructions. If a person is not corrected for that, then they lose the opportunity of making the connection with you and making sure that they take the time to develop the relationship. They also aren't showing you that they are ready to receive that instruction, and it could be even a sign of defiance. So learning to recognize, oh, the step I'm missing is to look at the person. I need to work on that, is going to be very beneficial. Learning skills that have steps develops critical thinking, and it creates assertive, deliberate action for the child as well. In the Teaching Self-Government Parenting course, which is on my website, teachingselfgovernment.com, I call it the TSG Parenting course. If you look for it in the store, you'll find it. That is my premier training. If you can't come to one of the live trainings, which is like the live 3-day trainings, then that's the next best way to do it. Plus you have it for a lifetime. In that course, I teach how to do those 4 basic skills, but I also teach how to do the 5 skills for parents as well. When parents teach their children that they are going to do 5 different things, that they are going to use skill sets, which include scripts or things that you can say every time to be predictable for the child so that the child's anxiety decreases, then the child actually now is able to analyze exactly what the parent is doing. They can notice similarities, differences. They can receive the information from the parent better, which means that they can also follow instructions better. I also teach 3 different types of meetings that we have together as a family. And these meetings are really great at engaging in problem solving and critical thinking as a group and individually with the child so that they set goals and prepare for their own self-government and their own proper child development. 2 of the 3 meetings that we have are these ones: family meetings and mentor meetings. Mentor meetings are an individual meeting where we have with the children a conversation about their development, the different areas of development, and what goals they have for themselves, what problems they know they need to conquer. We help them make plans for their future. Now, the family meeting is a meeting where the whole group gets together and talks about running the family environment, what's succeeding, what's not succeeding, what proposals we have to make changes, what different announcements we have or things we need to bring to our attention. We problem solve as a group. This is more critical thinking training for the children in the family. And these meetings are also times that they actually enjoy, believe it or not. Now, I know some people might think, no, my family will not. We've tried this. Well, there's some things you can do that I talk about in my training that make these meetings more fun, not a drudgery. And just so you know, the amount of time you schedule the meetings for definitely matters. So also a skill that I teach in the TSG parenting course is something called SOTAs. So SOTAS is an acronym that stands for situation, options, disadvantages, advantages, solution. There is a format that you use those different things you go through to help the child understand in a certain situation, what are my options? What are the disadvantages to these options? What are the advantages to these options? And what is the solution that I choose? And then after that, how do I determine if that was the right solution? And how do we make a different decision later if we found that we have made the wrong decision? So this book here helps keep a record of all of those SOTAS exercises that you might talk through with your child. It could be anything from a social problem they're having to a motivation problem to a behavioral problem. Anything, you can do a SOTAS exercise. In fact, even as a family, you might want to do a SOTAS exercise on a family activity that you want to have or a trip that you want to go on. This exercise really is at the root of understanding great critical thinking skills. It helps you see that even for a choice you know is wrong, there are advantages, and that's why people make the wrong choice. I have just scratched the surface here talking about self-government and some of the components of self-government that can teach critical thinking. Basically, learning how to govern yourself is all learning how to do critical thinking. You are examining why you do what you do. You're asking yourself questions on the inside so that you don't keep making the same mistakes again and again. Critical thinking leads to good problem solving, good conflict resolution, and overall wisdom. It also helps a person feel confident as they go through life. So we can do our children a favor by teaching them more critical thinking skills. This video is just the beginning. I recommend getting the full Teaching Self-Government training. If you want to learn more about teaching self-government, what resources I have to offer, and the trainings that you can take, definitely go to teachingselfgovernment.com. I'll see you there.